Throughout history, there have been treasures hidden or lost all over the world. Sometimes a treasure is lost at sea or somewhere long ago in a forest or deep in the jungle, waiting for a brave explorer to try and find them. Join us as we do a little treasure hunting and discover 10 hidden or lost treasures waiting to be found. Lost City of Gold. Perhaps one of the most famous stories about Inca mythology is called Paititi, or the Lost City of Gold. This immense city would be buried somewhere in the Peruvian Amazon rainforest, deep in the jungle, and would have been the last Incan refuge following the Spanish conquest. The conquistadors pillaged the Andes area of Cusco of its gold and silver, but only got part of the treasure. The bulk of the treasure this city contained has never been found. But beware if you wish to try and find the lost city. Due to the remote location of this place in the Amazonian rainforest, as well as dense mountains that have to be traveled, it's no wonder the Paititi remains so hard to find. Drug trafficking, illegal logging, and oil mining are overtaking this part of Peru, and many amateur explorers that enter are often never heard from again. It is not just the city that holds the untold lost treasures of sparkling gold. Lake Guatavita could contain up to $300 million in gold treasures and precious stones, lying at the bottom, all due to a ritual. Legendary tales of the Muisca tribe talk about this ritual that was performed when it was time to appoint a new king. They would be brought to Lake Guatavita. The new king would be led with his assistants to an extravagantly decorated raft, and on the raft, piles of gold and precious stones, which were to be a sacrifice to the Muisca's god. Once the raft made it to the middle of the lake, the new king and his attendants threw the precious stones and pieces of gold into the middle of the lake. There have been attempts to drain the lake, and gold was found on the shores as the lake was drained. So there could be tons of glittering gold and jewels at the bottom, waiting for the next lucky treasure hunter. Somewhere out there at the bottom of the sea lies $2.6 billion worth of treasure, along with the remains of the ship that was smashed to bits after hitting a reef in a deadly storm. The Flor de la Mar was a Portuguese battleship in 1511 and was involved in capturing a wealthy city called Malacca. The amount of treasure the Portuguese took from Malacca would stagger the imagination. More than 60 tons of gold loot in the form of animals, birds, gilded furniture, ingots, and gold coins came from the Sultan's palace alone. The treasure took up so much space that the crew had trouble finding room for another 200 gem-filled chests. The diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and sapphires in them alone would be worth billions of dollars today. As the ship sailed for home, a vicious storm had smashed the ship against the reef, and the ship broke in two. All the treasures that were plundered from Malacca now lay below this great reef, somewhere along with all those gem-filled chests. Once the prized possession of the Portuguese fleet, the wreckage of this ship lies in wait somewhere near the Strait of Malacca, ready for a lucky underwater adventurer to disturb its resting place and strike it rich. There is a story of a lost, heavily armored Nazi ghost train that was carrying special cargo: weapons, precious jewels, priceless art pieces, and 300 tons of stolen gold. In the final days of World War II, this armored train left the city of Breslau, which is now Wrocław, Poland, in April 1945. The train was headed west toward a city once known as Waldenburg, now Walsbrich. During the war, the Germans were building headquarters for Nazi leader Adolf Hitler in Walsbrich's medieval Ksias Castle, then called Fürstenstein Castle. The train was headed there as the Soviets closed in. It vanished into the Owl Mountains with its cargo of gold and stolen treasures inside of tunnels that Adolf Hitler had ordered created inside of the Owl Mountains. Somewhere in one of these hidden passages, the train may be hiding, its entrance blown up by the Nazi soldiers to hide the train inside. It was rumored that the train had been found, but those rumors turned out to be false, and all that was found was an empty tunnel. Our next lost treasure takes us to South Africa, where in 1890, during the Second Anglo-Boer War, the Boers, who were the South African descendants of the Dutch settlers, knew that their capital of Pretoria was going to be captured by British troops. So they quickly commandeered as much gold as they could from the banks and reserves, and even collected gold from the mines. The collection of gold also included thousands of newly minted coins. The gold is believed to have traveled with the Boer president, Mr. Paul Kruger, as he journeyed eastward towards Mozambique to avoid being captured by the advancing British troops. He ended up departing by ship to France on 19 of October 1900. However, the gold coins, ingots, gold dust, silver ingots, and coins remained hidden and have been lost ever since. It's estimated that the value of all this treasure is at $500 million. There are many tales of pirates' treasure buried in different locations around the world, and small islands are the most likely places for pirates to hide their loot. Oak Island is one of the places. Legend says that a member of Captain Kidd's crew buried loot worth up to $3 million on the island. Some claim that lost jewels belonging to Marie Antoinette are hidden deep underground. Others say Shakespeare's original manuscripts are to be found along with significant religious artifacts. The story of buried treasure all began in 1795 when a teenager named Daniel McGuinness discovered a circular depression on Oak Island in Nova Scotia, Canada. He gathered some friends and they found some stone-covered pit with oak logs placed side by side, along with putty and coconut fibers. As they dug, they seemed to trigger some type of booby trap, as the pit suddenly filled with water. Many attempts have been made to remove the water from the pit unsuccessfully, leaving what could be untold treasures at the bottom. You don't have to be a pirate to feel the lure of hunting for buried treasure. The Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine is a story that has been around for a long time and is the most famous lost mine in American history. Located somewhere in the aptly named Superstitious Mountains, which stretch across 160,000 acres of desert, a legendary gold mine worth millions upon millions of dollars waits to be found. A German immigrant who settled in Arizona during the gold rush met a man named Peralta who offered Walt and his partner Wiesner a mining deal in his family mine. Somehow Wiesner ended up in a tragic situation and Waltz took what he could and returned to Phoenix. Before Waltz died, he had told people that inside the mine was a huge vein of gold surrounded by hematite in quartz. But he left nothing but a map with numerous drawings and some X symbols, arrows, and a giant heart. Many have tried to decode the clues in the map without success. Montezuma's treasure. In 1519, the Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés arrived on the outskirts of Tenochtitlan, the capital of the mighty Aztec Empire. Montezuma offered lots of gold to Cortés and his men who were seen as gods, hoping that they would be satisfied and go away. Instead, it fueled the Spanish greed for gold even more, and Cortés decided to place Montezuma under house arrest, while the conquistadors set up a base to ransack Tenochtitlan for its treasures. The Aztecs, of course, were not pleased, but took no action against them until the conquistadors pushed things too far. The Aztecs did eventually rise against the Spaniards, where Montezuma was mortally wounded. As the conquistadors fled, they dropped many of their plundered treasures at the bottom of Lake Texcoco. There is a rumor that the treasure was recovered when Spain returned and that it traveled north and could be hiding somewhere in the mountains in Utah. Perhaps Montezuma's treasure will remain lost for many more years to come. There is a story of a man named Doc Nos, who in 1937 was on a deer hunting trip in the southern Rocky Mountains. During his trip, he came across a dark mine shaft that had skeletons, historical items, jewels, and 16,000 bars of gold. But Doc Nos had a problem with the entrance to the mine as it was too narrow. So he used dynamite to try and open the hole and accidentally closed off the mine. Many attempts to uncover the mine have since been unsuccessful, and its $1.2 billion in estimated gold is probably lost forever. In early March 1863, a Confederate ranger by the name of Colonel John Singleton Mosby, along with his band of raiders, surprised more than 40 Union troops at the Fairfax courthouse, and without firing a single shot. Mosby took a burlap sack that was stuffed with $350,000 in gold, silver, jewelry, candlesticks, and many other treasures from wealthy Virginia planters. While Mosby was transporting Stoughton and the other prisoners back to the Confederate line, his scouts warned him of a large detachment of Union soldiers nearby. In case of a battle, Mosby told his men to bury the sack of treasure between two large pine trees, which he marked with his knife. Mosby's raiders avoided the clash and got back behind Confederate lines. But when he sent back 7 of his men to retrieve the riches, they were caught and hanged as accused guerrillas. Mosby never returned to get the treasure and never told anyone else its exact location. As far as anyone knows, it remains buried in the woods of Fairfax County, Virginia today.
If you like our video, then please like, comment and subscribe. And thanks for watching.